help you get caught up. We started with the anatomy packet. Remember, your rubric is right on the front, and that is due with the project. You're going to fill it out, write your sentences here. On the back, we practiced doing the muscle tissue fibers. You can do it black and white or the red. There's also color printouts on Classroom for you. Then the next side, we practiced doing the features. And so this was to help you understand, this is what I'm looking for in your final portrait. You're going to be doing your own eye, nose, ear, and mouth, and that value. Everybody on the back, we practiced face mapping, where we looked at the face and we measured and did that outline. We're going to be using that today. So if everybody wants to get their back of their packet open, so you have your face map out. The last two drawing classes, I did two different demos. I did each side. So this is what you're going to be doing on yours. And I did two different sides, and I'll do another one today. So new tools that you're going to be using today. You're going to need your graphite pencil. I have these eraser tops. This is really good to help you get erase details like for hair and features. And then you also need your eraser. And the new tool today that you're going to be using is called a tortillon. And a tortillon is not a pencil. This is a blending stick. Sometimes we have residue from the graphite on it, so you can get light shading, but you really want to avoid doing that. You need to actually use your pencil first, which I'll show you in the demo, and then you use the tortillon to smooth out those areas. Please do not try and unravel the tortillons. They do not sharpen. All it does is ruin the tip, because we want this nice smooth tip to get even gradation. And they're really expensive. So this is about $15 put to waste. So please, you don't need to sharpen it. You just use it to blend, okay? It's a tool. So the next step, everybody should have already, some people were absent. We started with the skull, and then we had a fold-out booklet, and we did the skull, remember, realistic, or you could add your own creative aspects to it to describe you. Then when you're done, this is what the front of your cover should look like. I'm going to draw a line to represent, this is where my two pages meet. Okay, where it folds, right? So once you've gotten your, your skull finished, then we were lightly tracing the skull on those front two packets. Remember, a line where the teeth meet. A little quick notch where that nose socket is, eye socket as well. I'm not going to do the other side for today. I'm just going to do this one side. Okay? So remember to always draw lightly. When we draw lightly, it's easy to erase and make corrections. When we make dark lines, we erase, but that line is still there. It's a ghost line, and it's hard to make any corrections. Okay? So the next step that we're going to do is start putting in our facial features. Everybody should have a mirror in front of them. Another handy tool is a camera, which we'll talk about in a minute. We're going to take a picture. So everybody should have their face map open, and we're just going to redo the face map on our skull. So we've already started doing that with the muscles as well. Remember, we draw a line, light line, through the eye to represent the eye line. The top of our head to the eye line is the same distance to our chin. Okay? So we have that already. Then remember, our eye socket is right here, right where our eyeball is. And I talked about several times how you guys can measure when we're trying to find, remember, 5 eyes from the left to the right side of our face. And I actually just realized that's probably hard for you to see without the rest of the skull drawn. So let me get that quickly. Sorry. Just to help with this measurement part, since you guys are going to have that all outlined. Okay, there we go. So there's my skull. So remember, our eye is our eye width is 5 eyeballs across, from the left to the right. If you have difficulty measuring, remember I talked about how you can measure with your pencil by using the tip of your pencil and then your fingers as the bottom part. You can also use a piece of paper, scrap paper, to help you measure the eye width. So 1, 2, 3, 4. A little bit off. You fix it. There we go. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So now I know, and that lines up right where my eyeball is going to be. And then this is the distance from the outside of my eye to the side of my head. Remember we talked about also, our hairline is 1/5 down. So if this is the top of our head up here, this is where our hairline is going to start right about here, 1/5 down. The top of our eye socket is where our eyebrow is going to begin. Remember, the width of our eye also should be from the bottom of the eye. This is where the top, you can line up the eye, and that's where you know your eyebrow will line up. Okay? Everything can be divided by eyes. I have a really cool diagram to show you later. So, you know, our eyebrows are going to be here. And then, remember, the inside of our eye will outline where the edge of our nose should be. From our eye line to the chin, if we go halfway through that space, that's going to show us where the bottom of our nose will be. So now I have the shape of my nose. And from the eye pupil down, that's going to show me where the outside edge of my mouth will be. So now I know where my mouth will be, chin. Remember, ears are going to be at your brow line to the bottom of your nose. So now I have everything mapped out. Remember, this is face mapping. So now you're going to go to your picture, to your mirror, and I'm going to show you, I took a picture of myself. Or actually, I'll do a student. That'll help. So you can see. I'll use a student this time. So I already did my face for the last 2 classes. So those are here. So, and this will help show you how this will work for anybody. So I just took a picture to kind of show you, this is like what I'd be looking at in the mirror. We're looking at our face head on. And it's always also good, a lot of us have difficulty understanding the way value is translated when we're drawing. We all have value on our faces, regardless of our skin color. And we're translating the value with graphite. So we know in reality that we don't have this much dark in our face at all, but we're trying to match the value from light to dark. So now that I have everything mapped out, now I can start looking in the mirror, and I'm going to be doing, like how we did our first project, contour line hands. Now I'm going to be doing a contour line drawing on top of the skull based on what I'm seeing in the mirror. So if I am Isaiah in this picture, I'm going to outline. You can see I have the eye already outlined, so now I'm going to put the lids in. I'm doing a quick, from the top of the eyeball, will show where that eyelid is. Eyebrows, notice, start right above where that eye socket is, and then kind of fan out to the side. And I have the bottom, just doing this lightly. And the bottom of the eye is there. I already have where the bottom of the nose should be, so I can see his nostril. Remember the ball for the nose, and then another ball for the nostril. So now I can build up those shapes. And then I have the cheek coming down here with your cheekbone. You want to look at, you're trying to imitate, we have the basis of the skull, but now we're going to try and imitate the way your face looks in the mirror. We have our hairline here. You can even outline where shadows are. If that helps you. It always helps me. And his hairline. Contour outline. The ear shape as well. Let's see a little bit of that ear. And it's always good to do it this light because that way I can always go back and fix everything. Then I have his frenulum and the mustache that comes down through here. His lips, his quick outline, and the facial hair comes down over that chin. There's a little bit of a shadow underneath here. And the facial hair, it's hard to kind of see in this picture, but in the mirror, his facial hair comes below. That's his chin line. It's actually like right here, so you can see the hair goes over it. So I'm just going to mark that in as well. Remember, the neck lines up with the outside of your eye. Then he has his shirt. To see how the map works for anybody, any age or gender. So now that I have the outline of the face drawn in, now I'm going to start adding my midtones. You can even erase these mapping lines if you need to. But this is just a double check. You want to go back and make sure everything looks right. If anything looks off, now is the time to make those adjustments. Use the brush to wipe away. Now I'm going to start to come in and shade wherever I see those shadows. And you want to go up slowly first. You're going to see how fast this tortillon works. It's going to help me smooth out my blending. I still want to be careful and with my mark making. You see I rushed a little bit there because I'm doing a demo. And this side of his face is pretty much all in shadow. So I'm going to start marking that, and the shadow goes all the way to the edge of that eyebrow, down around his cheek. Underneath the eye, there's some more shadow. I'm just going to darken in his pupils so I can see that. On the top of his nose, he has a shadow here. And then outside of his nostril. Your lips are always darker on the top and lighter on the bottom. And one thing, if you're noticing, a lot of people tend to, when they're drawing, they always do these dark outlines and then shade it in. We don't want to do that. No, no. We're gonna create lines with value. So I'm gonna highlight in those lips, and then right below that lip, it gets dark. There's a shadow. And I'm just gonna start. You notice on the edge of his face, there's a shadow going all the way up. Hair, same thing with its value. First, I want to establish value, then I'm gonna go in with details. So it's darker. His hair is curlier, so I'm going to do what's called scumble. So scumble is where I'm making really fast, quick movements, and we practiced that. Also, hairline is never always flat. It's uneven. You can see in the picture even how there's like little flyaway wispies. And even the hairline on his forehead is uneven. So I always like to build up value first and then come back over with those marks. Okay, so this is a good start for right now. I'm just going to put for his beard, his facial hair, I'm going to make that value as well. and then come back in and put detail. So this is where the tortillon helps. Watch how fast. I always usually start with the tortillon and the hair because it helps me build up graphite on the tortillon that I can use in other areas of the face. So it's kind of helpful. Now I'm going to, just like a pencil, don't apply a lot of pressure. If you press down too hard, you're going to get these streaks. Now this is blending out my mark, so it's giving me really beautiful, quick value. A little bit of a shadow there. And I'm also going to be using my eraser, what we call subtractive value. So this is going to be basically like we're sculpting right now. So right now I'm putting in, establishing where all the shadows are, but I can go back with my eraser and I can erase where any highlights. But just like with the pencil, you want to be really gentle with the tortillon. And if you do better, if you need to come up and watch as I'm doing it, you're always welcome to come up to the desk. I had several people last hour doing that. Don't worry about it if you put too much value in, because I'm going to show you how we can use that eraser here in a minute. So now you're starting to see his face is starting to show up. Wherever there's a highlight, I try to avoid that area and leave that white of the paper. And I forgot to do the facial hair was darker down here. So underneath your chin, it's also in shadow, so that's usually darker down below. I can see a little bit of his neck in that picture. And I'm trying to be mindful of the shape of his face. So if it's curvy, I want to make curvy swoops. And I have his cheek there. And then it's really dark in here. It's where his sweatshirt hoodie starts. I'm going to put that value in. And with the ear, it's kind of a highlight here on that edge. You can see some of those features. Now I'm going to come in with my eraser. So ways to use your eraser. You can turn it on its edge like this and get really nice, crisp shapes or lines, if you will. So I want to get that going. You can also turn it to the side, and you can gently pull away areas that you need to be lighter. So like right here in that shadow, there's a little bit of a highlight there. Or like on the edge of the lip. I also bought you guys these pencil top erasers. These are really good to get like those, like the thin white line above his lip. Or like details in the lip. You can see that kind of coming down. And you're just going to kind of start pulling away with the eraser. And also starting to establish the dark areas. So I'm going to zoom in on that eye a little bit. You can get close as you need to with your pencil in your mirror. And where there's highlights everywhere, I want to erase those first before I put any dark areas in. And now I'm starting to lay in the darker areas. Paying attention, you remember the inside of your eye has a shadow. So I want to lay that in as well with my, I think the tortillon is the best thing to use to get that shading correct. See how it's darker on that inside edge? And your eyelashes are never, a lot of people, like just like I showed with the lips, a lot of people do a really thick outline. Notice how his eye is darker mainly in the corners. So I'm going to build up that value, that darkness in the corners. And I can see a little bit of his eyebrow, or eyelash, excuse me, coming out here on that corner. It almost makes a sharp edge. I can use my eraser to, again, bring out that highlight. The top of his eye, inside of his eye. It's like a nice highlight right there underneath his pupil. And remember, softly blending away any areas I need for highlight. I can come back with the tortillon because it has pigment to get those light edges underneath. And I'm just going to keep building it up. There's always a little shadow here, right where your eye socket and top of your eye meet. Sorry, I'm giving a demo, so I can't really stop. Okay. Awesome. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just giving a demo, so I can't really stop. And then with eyebrow, if you guys notice, I built up the value first because underneath their eyebrow is skin. It's not white. And then you want to start, after you get the value built up, then we're going to come in with our pencil and do our directional lines showing the way our eyebrows are. Notice it starts right here, a little bit in front of that crease. So I'm going to start layering smaller pencil marks to show his eyebrows. I'm always starting lighter and then going darker. And they kind of come from the top and the bottom and meet in the middle. And his eyebrow goes further out. We all have different eyebrows. We all have different shapes, so that's why we're making sure we're looking in the mirror, paying attention to not only the size, the shape. Notice I'm using different directional lines. Shorter. So I built up the medium tones. Now I'm going to come in. You notice usually your eyebrow tends to be dark right here in this front part. So I'm going to start building up those lines here, and that's going to help make his eyebrows look more realistic. All right. You can also come back in with that pencil and scumble over that beautiful value from our tortillon, and I can get that edge of his hair. So that automatically gives me a dark value because I have that medium value established. And your hair is typically darker towards the roots, lighter on top, because that's where the highlight is catching. And break up those edges. You never want it to be even. All right. Now we're going to move down to put some of those highlights in his eye. So I'm coming back in. There's a little highlight underneath that eyebrow right there. He also has more of a line. That's the hood of your eye and a shadow right there on that edge. You can always smooth that out. Okay, so now with the nose, we already got the good value established, and I'm going to come in and start building up the same features. So his nostril, the darkest part, I like doing that first. I can see the bottom of that nostril, so I want to make sure that I don't, a common mistake is people put this line right up here on the end, and that's usually not true. So you can see the edge of your nostril. And then right above that nostril it gets a little bit darker. And the bottom of your nostril has shading, but it's still light. You can still see it, so I'm going to put a little bit of that shadow. I'm going to blend that out. And again, I can still use my eraser if I need to soften that edge up. Put in that little highlight right there. You can see some of his facial hair happening here, so making that darker. And it's okay if you put too much. Just take your eraser, soften up on the side. Remember, I'm not doing it hard. That way it gives me white erasing marks. And his eye has a lot of, his ear has a lot of highlights, so I'm going to put those highlights in where they're at, the edge of his ear. And now I'll move down to the mouth. So remember, the top lip is darker than the bottom lip, and it's usually, your mouth is usually darker in the middle, and then it kind of frees up, and then it gets darker here towards the edge, that crease of your mouth. And you can see sometimes lines in your lips kind of coming down, so you can add those lines in, directional lines, or erasing. And right underneath that bottom lip, I put that highlight, but it gets dark right here. Then you have a couple of hairs here in the middle. And I've already established pretty good value with my tortillon with this facial hair. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did with the eyebrows, but I'm going to do it down on his facial hair. Forgot to bring that eyelash down a little bit. So eyelashes are also never even. Eyelashes are, you can see like little parts peeking through, but usually it's never uneven. It's never even, an even line. So now, back to the lip, facial hair. My pencil is getting dull, so I need to fix that too. I need to erase this highlight underneath his nose, and he has a shadow underneath that nostril. So now I'm going to do the directional line. There's a shadow right here on the top of his lip. And he has some facial hairs. So I'm being mindful again of the directional line. And where it builds up over here, you can see it goes in many different directions. Right here, it's a couple that curl up even. Gets lighter here, and then as it starts to get down here, it's going to increase. And just like his hair, it's uneven on the bottom. So I'm going to kind of start doing those flyaways. And same thing with his cheek. You can see he has some facial hair coming in, so I can actually include that as well. Coming up that side of his face. A little bit lighter on that bottom part, so I'm going to kind of kind of go back in. Alright. I'm not done, but that just gives you guys a quick, you kind of see it. Always go back and forth and look. It's actually good to take a picture. If you guys can see here, the picture will help you see any mistakes. But I was kind of zooming in and out. So now I'm going to come back in and make corrections. So everybody wants to start beginning. Remember we have, I'm staying after tonight till 4:35. If anybody wants to stay after and work. This is going to be due tomorrow.